Okay, so this is going to be part 6, and I guess the final video on making an Old West gun belt. So in the last one, I showed you all how to mark out for your bullet loops, how to cut your slots or punch your slots, and weave them in and out. Something I did some measuring on since then. Takes about 5 foot of your loop material for every foot on your belt using 22 LR. 22 Magnum would be pretty close. It's gonna eat up a little more, a little faster, but not a whole lot. So I've done up to the last hole. And I'll show you how to end it off, which is kind of the same as the way you begin it. But you want to make sure you snug them up real good, but you don't want to pull it so tight that your belt gets deformed. So you want to pull about in this angle. You don't want to pull too tight like this way or straight this way. You want to kind of be right at that angle, about like that. That's what seems to work the best. Snug it up, run your other end through your loop, make sure that stays snug, and pull it on through. Now I'm going to use just a hole punch here, but if you weren't going to buy a kit or didn't want to have to spend a bunch of money getting this kind of stuff, a good rotary punch, you can do all this with a rotary punch too. It's just easier with these, so that's what I'm going to use. But you want to make sure that's good and snug. And right underneath your hole that you already punched in your belt, I'm just going to stick my tool there, pound it home, enlarge my hole a little bit, and my screw. Another dab of my Leathercraft cement. Doesn't hardly take anything. These screws aren't very big, so just a drop in the threads. The toothpick is how I like to do it. Take my Chicago screws. You want to put a finger on the other side touching that screw. Got to keep it from turning till it's tight. Okay. I'm going to step away for a second and grab my scissors. And I'm just going to snip that off straight. About 1/2 inch or so from the screw. So that's what you're going to look like on the back side. If you were going to line this belt, which would be cutting out another piece of leather the same as your big part here, and then what I do when I'm lining them is I do all this first, except for I want to attach probably either one of attach the belt buckle and the billet on the other side, or I'd take them off, and then you cut out your other piece, glue it to the back, and then you'd have to take a stitch groover and get your line, or a wing divider, something, make your line, either punch all your holes with chisels or poke them all with an awl, and then use a saddler stitch and hand stitch the entire perimeter. And when you got done, it would look something like that if you wanted to line it. But this one I'm not going to line. This one I'm going to keep simple and cheap. But it looks a little goofy on the back, but when you're wearing it, nobody's going to see that. It's going to look fine wearing it. I don't think I'm going to dye it. I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. I kind of like the looks of the leather. But I'm going to show you, that's what a dauber is. I think I got this in like a 50 pack off of probably Amazon. But one thing, if you do want to dye it, you want Pro Dye. There's a little thing of black. This is 4 ounce and this is 32. If you're going to get more into leather working, get the big one. If you're just going to do a belt and a holster, 4 ounces might do a belt in one holster. It might even do 2, but you know, it varies by belt and holster, so I can't guarantee that 4 ounces would be enough. But you want Fibings Pro Dye. You don't, there's also, it's called Fibings Leather Dye. You want the Pro Dye. The leather dye, there's a lot of rub off, so if you dye it black, you're going to get black on your pants, on your shirt, on your hands, and that stuff just doesn't come off very good. It's dye. This stuff, you'll still want to, after you would dye it, you'd still want to take a cotton rag and buff it out really good. There'll be some rub off, but not near as much. Another thing that you're going to want is something to seal it with. I like Fibings Leather Balm with Atom Wax, probably the best. Another thing I've used is Needs Foot Oil. I got this in the tack section at an Ace Hardware. Both of those work pretty good. They darken your dye, or if you wanted to put Needs Foot Oil on this, it would darken it just a little bit. And I might put a coat of some kind of sealant on it, and I might not. Like I said in one of the other videos, I mainly made this just for the video, so I'm not too concerned about like preserving it, but it'll last a long time even if you do nothing. So that's just some other products that you can research and think about using. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed to mention. Turn off my dehumidifier so you can hear me. But yeah, that's all the steps to making it. Putting the rest of these bullet loops on, I think, took me another 15-20 minutes off camera, and I still had to punch out some of the slots and then weave them in and out. Like I've said in the other video, this is by far the easiest and fastest way. Something else, these came in a leather working kit. They're little strips of sandpaper, kind of like a fingernail file, but I took and went in between the bullet loops like this and got most of the sanding marks off, or the pencil marks off from when I marked everything. But if you would have punched the slots and then just did this over the marks, which is what I did on the other half that I did off camera, I can't even tell where those lines were, and it didn't take much and didn't like deface the belt or anything. So on a rough out rig you can do that. If you had top grain, you'd scratch it all up. So that if you're using top grain leather, you definitely want to make all those marks on the back side where it's either going to be lined or against your body. But that's pretty much all there is to the basics of making a gun belt out of leather by hand. So it seems to function good. One of the holsters I made here, this one's lined so it's smooth on both sides. I like them either smooth on both sides or rough on the outside, smooth on the inside. I don't really care for the way my gun drags on a rough in holster, but you obviously you don't have to get a cart buckle like this. You can get whatever kind of, just if you got an old pants buckle like that off of an old pair of pants, you can put that on there. Just change your dimensions to fit that. And this is all unloaded. I think that belt will work real good. So anyways, that's how you make a gun belt. At least that's one method. So thanks for watching.